Hey, welcome everyone to the latest installment of The Way It Is. I'm your host, Luca Andolfato with Remax Service First Realty Inc. here in Kingston. I hope everybody's having a good day. This one I'm kind of pulling out of the back pocket, folks. I'm meant to do this as a half year in review and a bit of a projection slash forecast for the next 6 months of the year. It's not unfolding the way I'd had anticipated. I'd reached out to CMHC, Canada Mortgage and Housing, to have a conversation with one of their economists slash analysts slash forecasters, because they've released the latest version of their overall housing outlook report for the country. And of course, they hit all of the major centers. They used to do Kingston, but Kingston wasn't mentioned. So they skipped right over it, went to Ottawa, Gatineau, and then, of course, you got Vancouver, Montreal, Toronto, Halifax, all the areas that really some might be interested in, but really don't affect us here. So in large degree. So anyway, that being said, I am going to share some statistics with you for the first half of the year, and some of them you may already probably won't be surprised by, rather, simply because of the content in some previous podcasts and everything like that. But in our sales and inventory to date, and I just did Kingston, okay, so that is all areas of the city. We are currently at an annual year to date. The average sale price in Kingston has been $535,000. That's from a average asking price of $545, an average sale price of $581,708, for a percentage increase of 106.71. So the average house in Kingston has sold for 106.71% over the asking price. In July, the percentage increase was 100.97, and notably, the peak month of the first half of the year, coming in at 108.2% over asking, was May. And that pretty much plays out in terms of how my office was doing and how busy we were during that time. Some other interesting notes is that I guess the highest month, though, so far, and of course, is July, but we're only obviously a handful of days into it. But the average list price so far in July is just over $616,000. The average sale price just over $622,000. And that, again, is just creeps over 100% over the asking price. The average days on the market overall, annual year to date, 16. And again, so that's not long. Some of it would be even shorter, simply because a lot of the strategy now when listing a property, as you're aware, is you list it on today and you hold offers till Monday or Tuesday. So you've essentially got a week on the market, whether you want to be or not. Now, I also did a search for Frontenac County, which of course would include South Frontenac, which is essentially the biggest primary rural district north of us. It includes all of the little hamlets, most of the little hamlets surrounding Kingston. I didn't go east. Again, I didn't want to get too into the weeds with all these statistics, and certainly please feel free to send me a note or an email, and I can send you the stats and drill down to any neighborhood you want, any municipality. We're on this new matrix system. Gosh, be careful what you wish for, and maybe be thankful with what you had, because I'm sure I'm not the only realtor in Kingston right now cursing the people that came up with this software. I'm going to tell you that right now. It certainly wasn't a real estate person involved on the team, I can tell you that. So, because it's certainly its interface and its intuitiveness leave a lot to be desired. But anyway, that's just my personal little rant. So for Frontenac, things change. And of course, this is rural area. So this doesn't distinguish between waterfront and non-waterfront. It's just simply that municipality. So we've got annual a year to date, an average list price of 478, an average sale price of almost 521, which is actually 108 point, almost 109% percentage increase sale price over asking price. The month again, though different, that cracked the scales in Frontenac County was April, where the percentage increase from sale price to asking price was 114%. And the average days on the market, a little bit longer at 32. So almost twice that. Speaks to potentially just, again, rural versus urban, different demographics, different buyer demographics, different qualifications, things like that. So that's basically a quick little snapshot. So where do we go from here? Well, there's snippets of news coming across the news feeds that the Toronto housing market is still cooling, what's happening, blah, blah, blah. So I'm going to go back to where some of the comments I've made in previous podcasts, which is if this does cool, and let's interpret or put that into perspective, I guess, or into context. We're seeing essentially close to 40% increase in pricing in values from last year. Okay. So let's say that cools off to 50%. So now we're still talking price increases of anywhere between around 20%, maybe 15%. So I think I mentioned and touched on it before, which was, if anything, we might start creeping into what we refer to as a balanced market, or more of a balanced market, where you won't see maybe as much frenzy happening, where there won't be 20 offers on a property and it sells for $200,000 over asking. And yet, in saying that, you can't generalize that statement across all market sectors and all price ranges, and that's the rub. The rub is the sweet spot, as always, still remains that $350,000 to $550,000, $600,000 range now. And that seems like a big range. And that's simply because houses in that $400,000 to $500,000 range captures the largest potential number of buyers available in the marketplace at any given time. Vis-a-vis A, if you're going to live in the property, B, if you're going to be an investor of the property, you're downsizing, all of that. It captures the majority of them. So hence, you're going to have a larger number of potential buyers vying for those properties. And you see a lot of those properties in urban areas. Again, you also see them in rural settings as well. Perhaps the migration that we saw from the GTA and those other centers may start to peter out a bit. Hard to say. I mean, again, it would have been nice to have had some expert opinions on that. That being said, I think I touched on it in a podcast I was asked to be a guest on, David Greenspan, called Mindshare podcast. And I'd watched a webinar that MPAC had hosted, and their head economist and the head guy at Toronto Real Estate Board that does all their forecasting said that we're still in this for a while, this market with more demand than supply. Supply, of course, the underlying theme is there's still less supply than there is demand. And what's going to continue to drive demand, interestingly enough, is immigration to the province of Ontario. During COVID, we actually saw a lot of it leave Ontario. Surprisingly, they all went to BC. Sadly, given current climatic events, that may start to change too. Who knows? But Ontario is going to start to see more immigrant populations coming into the area. They're going to be looking for housing. They're going to be looking for employment. And so that's going to continue to be a demand in the marketplace. So, I think 2021 is going to continue to pace itself out in terms of steady as she goes in terms of current situations. And then the other, of course, variable that plays a huge role in all of this is interest rates, right? So, we're still seeing people getting variable rates or 5-year fixed rates at 1.55 or under 2%. So that is definitely spurring some serious buyer activity, and both from a refinancing to buy investment properties or to buy recreational properties, what have you, right? And everybody said, well, what happens if the interest rates creep up? Well, they're not going to stay like this forever. We know that. I've sadly done this for 33 years. So when I started, the average interest rate in Kingston was 12%, right? So there were still people qualifying for houses then. There were still people buying houses then. There were still people selling houses then. So that's not going to change. But let's understand this. The banks and the federal government bumped up their stress test, which we talked about it. Ben and I had that podcast there several issues ago. And we've already got an inherent built-in safety cushion. People are already getting approved at 5.25%. Okay? So whether you choose to take the 1.55 or the 2.3 or whatever you're going to take, you still got a slush built in, assuming you didn't lie about your qualifications, and assuming you couldn't because you had to verify to your lender or to whoever was qualifying you or approving your mortgage that you had the ability to pay at the higher interest rate. So we've got a bit of a built-in safety net. Our rate's going to go crack 6% in the next 6 to 12 months. I dare say that, well, if they do that, then they do that. But I don't think I'm the only person that would say that I don't think that's going to happen. I don't know if the economy's come back strong enough yet. It's just starting to sort of chug along. And then the other thing that's, of course, going to affect potential market timing right now and buyers and buyer activity in the marketplace is where we are in this pandemic, right? So we're flowing through all these vaccines now. People are trying to have a summer again, now that they've got double dosed or single dosed. And so priorities are shifting a little bit, right? People want to have a bit of a vacation with family or go see family if they can, or if they're brave enough to get on a plane or get in an RV or get in a car or do whatever they can do, right? So that's going to obviously affect buyer patterns and migration. But again, not to the extent that it's still going to stem the demand. At the end of the day, there's still not enough supply. There's still too much demand. And so I think we're going to continue to chug along. I mean, what's the worst case scenario if we approach a balanced market? Well, you know what? It's not going to hurt sellers. Sellers are still going to have, if a property is priced appropriately, they're still going to get a good value for their property because prices have increased and they're not going to go backwards at this point in time. And so they may not have 20 offers on a property. Maybe they'll only have 2 people offering on a property. Maybe they might have only 1 offer on the property. But at the end of the day, unless the property's got some stigma attached to it or been sitting on the market for 6 months, you're going to get your asking price or darn near close to it. So anyway, that's my little podcast review or half year in review and future projection for what it's worth to you listening out there or watching. And yeah, again, I encourage you though, if you have any, I love to have these conversations. I love to have them either over the phone, over a cup of coffee now, because we can do that safely. And certainly if you want any of these statistics or you want a customized report and drill down to like I said, a specific neighborhood, a specific municipality, specific region, we can do that now. So thank you for indulging. Thank you for taking the time. I hope you found it at least partly informative and partly useful. And we'll see you on the next one. Have a great day.